Imagine a time when the world was a vast ice prison. In those days, 50,000 years ago, there were no clocks or maps. There was only the bone-chilling north wind and the white death stretching across the horizon. The temperature was below minus 50 degrees, where it was difficult to even breathe. Even in this frozen white wilderness, a group of people were fighting to survive. They are our ancestors. Today, we will see how they conquered this terrible ice age without primitive technology. When the first sparks of fire ignite from the friction of stones in the corner of a dark cave, it was as if new life was born. For primitive people, fire was not just a means of cooking. It was a life-giving, magical force. They would keep the coals of fire in the horns of animals with utmost compassion. If the flame of that fire went out while moving from one mountain to another, it meant certain death. That red glow of fire was their only sun, which gave them courage in the night full of beasts. The Ice Age winds are not a blessing here, but a curse. To protect themselves from the sharp bite of these winds, people created a second skin. Their only shield was their clothes, made of heavy reindeer or mammoth hides. They sewed the veins of the animal's legs in such a way that not a drop of cold air could penetrate. They used dry grass inside the shoes to keep them soft. This primitive technology protected their bodies from frostbite or death by cold with utmost compassion. When the snowstorms tore through the sky, the stone caves were the only safe haven. They covered the mouth of the cave with heavy skins to block out the wind. They found warm corners to sleep in the stone grooves in the walls. The pictures they drew on the cave walls with charcoal and red clay were not just art, they were the secret blueprints for survival. Those primitive lines tell today's civilization that even in that hostile environment, people knew how to dream. When a group of woolly mammoths came forward, shaking the horizon, it seemed like living mountains were walking. Mammoths were the real emperors of this icy kingdom. This gigantic animal, weighing several tons, was a symbol of mystery and terror. Their huge, curved teeth and thick, long fur protected them from the cold. Nomadic hunters would observe the movements of these emperors from afar, because a mammoth hunt meant months of food and absolute assurance of survival for the entire tribe. Hunting a mammoth was a confrontation with the living. It was a battle of wits rather than muscle power. Hunters would dig deep holes in the snow and bury sharp stone stakes in them. Then, with shouts and torches, the mammoth would be driven into the death trap. When the sharp blade of the spear pierced the mammoth's thick hide, a bloody struggle would begin. This was not just the death of an animal, it was the fierce determination and triumph of a group of people to survive. Hunting a mammoth was a confrontation with the living. It was a battle of wits rather than muscle power. Hunters would dig deep holes in the snow and bury sharp stone stakes in them. Then, with shouts and torches, the mammoth would be driven into the death trap. When the sharp blade of the spear pierced the mammoth's thick hide, a bloody struggle would begin. This was not just the death of an animal, It was the fierce determination and triumph of a group of people to survive. They did not throw away any part of the mammoth after the hunt. Nature itself was their huge cold storage, where the meat was kept frozen. The rib bones of the mammoth were used to build houses or tents. The huge feet were used to make seats. They even made exquisite jewelry and firearms from teeth or ivory. Each hunt taught them how to use every bit of their resources to overcome adversity. When the sky suddenly turned black, people knew that the White Death was approaching. When the earth trembled with the terrible sound of the blizzard, people would sit in a circle, holding each other's hands. Mammoths would stand with their huge bodies blocking the air, and people would seek life behind those gigantic bodies. This cinematic moment shows how small humans are in front of nature, yet their courage knows no bounds. The calm earth at the end of the storm was their new battlefield. Primitive hunters did not fight only for the sake of their stomachs. They had a deep spiritual pull in their hearts. They believed in the spirits of the mountains, in the gods of fire. Before hunting, they would perform special dances, wearing animal masks, so that the gods of hunting would be pleased with them. When they buried their dead, they would accompany them with their favorite stones or flowers. Even in that merciless wilderness, this faith kept them united and showed them a light of hope in the darkest times of life. Thousands of years ago, the ice melted and became water, and the mammoths were lost to time. But the tenacity of those nomadic hunters still flows in our veins. Their first fire, the first sewn clothes, and the first stone weapons are the foundation of today's modern civilization. The stories of those who did not give up in that bone-chilling winter 50,000 years ago remind us that there is no defeat for humans. The story of humans is immortal and will continue for eternity.